G'day and welcome back for another episode of RIPPIN. This episode we've got our round 2 previews for you. There's a little bit of contention in this one. We find ourselves at odds regarding the Manly Sea Eagles and the North Queensland Cowboys in particular, so make sure you check out those sections of this episode. Without further ado, let's just fucking rip into it. Now we're on to round 2, brother. It's time to have a look at each of the 8 matchups that we've got coming up in this round, because there's a few exciting ones. Like, last round I felt like most of the games were pretty clear-cut of who's the favourite, and the bookies certainly said as much, and the 8 out of 8 tipping that I saw coming through the tipping comps said that everyone agreed. This round I think we've got a few more even matchups that could go either way. Starting off with one that I don't know if it's one of those games, but at least they're both winners from round 1 and top 4 teams from last year. Thursday night footy, Eels versus Storm. The way I see it, the Eels have to pull their socks up to stand a chance in this one. They didn't really show much in the first game. They got away with it, I think, against the Broncos, while the Storm looked pretty fucking good, at least for the majority of their game against the Rabbits, who are another clear top-tier team, right? So, for me, for the Eels to win, Dillbags and Moses need to put in a better performance. I don't think either of them really stamped their authority on that first game. King Gutho, I'm not really too worried about him. As much as I don't love the bloke, like, I can't deny that he's just so consistently good. I can't stomach it sometimes because he's above average in every way that I really wish he wasn't. He just needs the support around him, and that's what that's what Moses and Dillbags need to give him, in addition to guys like Sivo and Fergo. As for the Storm, it's just down to whether or not Money and Puppy can continue the form from round 1. They were both absolutely sensational, so all signs point to that they will continue that form.
Yeah, look, much of a muchness, like from what you said. Like I think if you look at both of the teams' performances last week, the Melbourne Storm started off really well through the middle. A lot of second phase footy with some offloads. Even when they got stuck into that opening set where the Rabbitohs really started to get them after that try, they were able to swing it out to Josh Adokar and make things happen. Whereas on the flip side of that, the Parramatta Eels were almost like a locomotive, like slowly having to get started, and it took them until the 47th minute to actually get going. Look, I really like the Storm in this one. I think that this is one of those games that the Eels normally, play up for. I think they're going to come about it a little bit differently. I don't think they're going to try to swing it out wide very early, but I think the worst team to try to beat up the middle in the opening 20 minutes is the Melbourne Storm, and I think it's going to be an opposite of their performance from last week, where I think they're going to try to run it down the throats of Melbourne early. It's not going to work, and then they're going to try to do the second option, which is swing it out wide, and that's also not going to work because of the speed and athleticism the Melbourne Storm have on the outside, and I just see the Melbourne Storm doing what they do to most teams, and I think the scoreline will be a lot closer than what the game will suggest. I'll go the Storm 20-6, but it'll be a game that the Melbourne Storm control pretty much from the outset. The only way that I see the Eels winning this game is that if in that first 20 minutes, and I know I talk about these stints all the time, but in that first 20 minutes, they've got to put up, and we saw it against the Rabbitohs last week, if you can hold Melbourne Storm to 0 points in that first 20 minutes, of course, you're in with a better chance the longer that goes, but they need to be making a lot of metres over the advantage line early, and they need a quick 1 or 2 meaties, and they need to actually commit to the middle. Not swinging it out wide early like they did against the Broncos, because if they give the Storm the same opportunities they gave the Broncos in the first 40, the Storm will be up fucking 13-0, and the game will be over. But that's not going to happen.
And that's where the Eels' strength is as well. Like, why are they trying to go out to those outside backs when they've got one of the probably top 4 forward packs? At least, that's what got them into the top 4 last year, right? So I just don't know why they're getting away from that. Maybe it came down to that switch of sides that you mentioned earlier. But for me, can't go past the Storm. They're going to come out of the blocks absolutely frothing at the mouth to put one on what was, a rival of theirs from last year. And I'm similar to yourself. I think the Storm will get up by 16.
Although I will say it will be close at Bankwest. Those fucking Parramatta bastards love playing there. So that'll make it interesting and fun. But yeah, Storm should get over the line. So that was a Thursday night game. Of course, the first taste that we have for Friday night footy is the Newcastle Knights, yet again, backing up a second early Friday night slot. So they've got to the New Zealand Warriors. Both teams, like we said, were pretty impressive. Look, this one's flip a coin for me. For the amount of pros I could say for a Warriors win, I look at the Newcastle team and I see the what would limit them to do it. I'm gonna go the Warriors. This one, based purely off of I want to now see them succeed with these big boppers. I want to see this big forward pack get over the advantage line. And I think that what we didn't really get to that I'll quickly touch on is the value of having a healthy Ken Mamalo and David Fusatua, just two big fucking wingers that essentially get you yardage like props. Like that helped the Warriors last week. And I think now that the Warriors are going to have just a little bit more confidence, and I just like the idea of a New Zealand Warriors team with a bit more confidence, a bit more flair than I do the Knights. And I think at the end of the day, that Tuivasa-Sheck will be the X factor that wins them that game.
I actually thought that Fusatua and Mamalo had a bit of a quiet week, which maybe is kind of scary for the coming rounds and coming opponents of the New Zealand Warriors, because they are very good, at least as meter eaters.
And that's it. Even if they're sucking up 15 carries a game, that's fucking 15 carries that Adam Fanua-Blake or fucking Bunty Afoa or Tohu Harris doesn't have to make,
But looking at their numbers last week, they're certainly not shying away from it, even in the blistering heat, right? So I agree with you. This is probably the hardest game in the round to tip. They're both contenders for the top 8. The Knights looked really good and put a little bit of a score on the Bulldogs, but I think they beat an inferior opponent compared to the Warriors toppling the Titans, right? So for me, I think the Warriors get up because they benefit from the extra fitness that came out of playing in 31, 32 degree heat. They got through that, and now they've got the confidence of, fuck, we beat the Titans, we got through this heat, I think we're on. And this forward pack clearly is looking really good, and I think it's a really actually even battle between the forward packs here, because we got the big boppers and Adam Fanua-Blakes and Bunty Afoa, who looked really good last weekend. And then you got your Clemmers and Saifides and Frizzell. So that's evenly matched. And then the back lines, they're both two up-and-coming back lines, because no KP means, they're kind of like for like in a way. I think probably Adam Pompey's going to have to come in because Ewan Aiken's out with an ankle injury. So you just look at each of those back lines, and they're very similar, at least in their what they offer and their experience in the NRL. So I think the Warriors will prevail in a tight one, maybe just 2 to 4 points in it.
Yeah, I got the Warriors by 1 to 6. We're using betting terms.
Then our second Friday night game is the Queensland Derby, or at least the Southeast Queensland Derby. This one's a close second for the hardest to tip, though I'm not sure if you would agree with me on that, because realistically they're both losers from the first round, but I would 100% agree that the Broncos showed more class than what the Titans did, at least for a 40-minute stint. I did think that Anthony Milford went missing in that second half, and he said it himself in his post-match interview. You can't play a half like that where everyone's straight back on your dick, like Anthony Milford's back. And then, I don't honestly recall seeing him in the second half, apart from that break at the end that resulted in the Turpin no try. So I think he needs to back it up with 2 halves. It's a game of 2 halves. Both teams will be better from these defeats, and also from getting in the reps with those new combinations. Both of them have plenty of new combinations. So I'm still going to back the star power of the Titans to step up here and get the dub, particularly with David Fifita wanting to prove a thing or two. At the end of the day, he doesn't want to go back there and get a loss. And then his like-for-like replacement, Jordan Riki, who's come in last week, and he had some moments in the Eels game, no doubt about it. He's got some aggression. He's honestly poised to take over from where David Fifita left off.
He's big set.
But in saying that, he also led the league for round 1 in missed tackles. That's not what you want. So
big sexy do a big sexy one.
He's got to get that fixed up for the Broncos to be successful.
You say that to his gorgeous face, you fucking mug. No, look, I'll disagree with you on one thing. That is, you said both teams will come out of these losses better. The Broncos will not, because our forward rotation now is fucked. And I said before round 1 is that our 18 to 21 is fucking atrocious. So now that Matt Lodge is out and John Asiata is a maybe not, So Flegler's going to have to start, and Flegler has proven in the past that whenever he comes up to start, he always shows promise on the bench, and then he comes to start and he gets belted. So that's worrying. And then Reece Kennedy comes onto the bench. That's bad. And then if John Asiata isn't right to play, then we've got to toss up our options as to whether or not do we put Dearden into 14, do we bring Corey Oates into this team as like a second rower, and then if Xavier Coates isn't fit and fine, ready to play, we have to play Richie Kenner. That's looking bad. The Titans, they're going to be piss and vinegar. Like, going from playing on a Saturday afternoon to a Friday night is going to feel completely different to them. David Fifita's not going to have that ankle infection worrying him too much. They're going to have a point to prove. The Titans fucking hate the Broncos. I mean, we don't hate the Titans that much, but, like, you know, they're annoying.
Like a little brother.
Exactly. But look, I think the Broncos will play well. I think, you know, the fight and the dig was there. If we can keep injury free for the 80 minutes, I think it'll be a closer contest in the second half, but I see the Titans winning by like 8, I think. Like, it'll be a close game. Like, I don't want to buy too much into the hype of the 40 minutes yet, because I'm not 100% sure if that first 40 minutes was the Eels playing shit or the Broncos playing well. So we'll just see. Like, the second half maybe led me to believe that it was the Eels playing shit. So I don't expect the Titans to play poorly 2 weeks in a row, but I can completely see the Broncos dropping 2 halves in a row and that first 40 minutes being a bloodbath. But I don't know, man. I thought they were going to lose by 40 last week, and they ended up nearly mending my sore, broken heart.
Well, that's it. Like, nobody could accuse you of being a one-eyed Broncos fan, because honestly, you know, I've been here trying to tell you, like, they actually went pretty good. You know, I've expected you to come in here and be like, you know what, yeah, I would back them over the Titans, man. Like, you know, they're probably both evenly matched, and you're very much taking that pessimistic approach. Maybe it's you're trying not to put the energy out in the universe that could get you some bad juju.
No, I've just had my heart broken by these fuckers so many
times. Low. Okay.
You were there at the trial game. I said they were premiers when they were up 10-0, and look how that happened. Like, and this is the thing, at 16-0 at halftime against Parramatta Eels, I was like, they're going to lose. And like, there was just this little voice in the back of my head that was like, but maybe they won't. They're going to lose. But maybe they won't. And then when Turpin scored that try, which was a try, fuck ya.
I disagree with you on that one.
Fuck you. I was G'd up. I have not been that rock solid watching footy in fucking years for the Broncos. That first 40 minutes was the best half of footy they've played since the Roosters in 2019, when they beat him in by like 15-12 or something, and Latrell had a shocker. That was the last game of Broncos footy where I've actually like been aroused by it. And even then it was like 40 minutes of arousal and then just 40 minutes of just torture.
Look, that Turpin try, whether or not it was a try, I don't think it was, but they just didn't deserve it. Like, Croft shouldn't have dropped that ball. It was an absolute fuck up on his behalf. I'll also say, you know, they don't have to play Richie Kenner, right? There is Walsh and Cobbo, who played in the Winner Manly Seagulls trial, who both look fucking good. So they've got some other options there. We'll wait and see what comes out in the team list, but I think the Titans are going to step it up with this one, and I probably agree with you that they're going to come out as the victors. So I've got the Titans by 14.
I'll take that. I hope that it's within 8, because I just want to see the Broncos defense actually shine through. The attack will get there sooner or later, but yeah, the Titans star power, and like, you know, just at least from what we know right now from the trajectories of where these teams are, you would think that and I'll say, if the Broncos are to win this game on Friday night, the way that the Broncos win is that the Titans win it for us. Like, if the Titans come up to play, like, that first 20-minute stint, we'll be able to deal with them. But, man, they're just going to bully Paddy Carrigan if he's out there for 80 minutes. And Tino and David Vita and Mo are just, you know. But that's just where the Broncos are right now. And, like, as long as they grow from it and they learn, like, I'm going to be happy, man. Like, the Titans have done their dues. It's time for them to go out and make some fucking noise. All right, with the Friday night torture sesh out of the way, it's now time for some Sad Diavo footy, and it comes courtesy of the Dogs and Panthers. So, look, I'm not going to split hairs here. The Panthers are going to fucking win, and they're going to win by a lot. We talked about it earlier, they weren't anywhere near at their best against the Cowboys, and they managed to hold them scoreless, put 24 points on them. Probably should have had a couple more tries. And right now, it's, you know, you couldn't look at two teams and see them at completely different stages in their, not even in their life, like in their growth and maturation. You've got the Penrith Panthers who have the confident coach, the incumbent who's been there for a few years now. From top to bottom, they're just full of just fucking gritty forwards that can do the hard work. Two halves that can just fucking change the game at a moment's notice. And even guys like Momirovski last week was solid. Like Charlie Staines, although didn't score those 3 tries, he had an awesome take down low that was nearly a try and got like bumped out by some good defense by the Hammer. But that's their worst edge. We'll talk about the left edge with Luai, Crichton, and Toto. It's going to be one of those ones where we talk about like the Bulldogs remember this game like moving forward, but man, like the Panthers are going to be looking at the ladder. They saw the Roosters put 46 up on the Manly Seagulls. They saw the Raiders put 30 up on the Tigers, and they will probably see the Storm do a pretty good job on the Eels on Thursday night. So I think the Panthers are going to use this game as a little bit of a statement, a little bit of flex to go don't forget about us. Like we're still here. Like we had a bad game last week and we still scored 24 points. Like watch us put 50.
I don't think anybody's forgetting about the Panthers. I think the 24-0, like when you keep a team scoreless, like that's not fucking easy to do. And the Cowboys, I don't think, are the worst team in the league. Remains to be seen. It's only round 1, but I don't think anybody's forgetting about them. I will also mention, by the way, that it's unfortunate news, but Charlie Staines' try-scoring strike rate is just reduced by 33%.
He's got to score 6 this week. Rush to eat a hat.
I can't believe it. How did he not score 3 tries this week, let alone 1? What happened? Anyway, look, the Bulldogs didn't get the result they wanted in round 1, and they needed it. They needed it to sort of get the confidence back especially after all the hype. We've talked about this in many games so far. If there's this much hype, like you need to come out of the blocks fucking swinging, and they didn't do that against the Knights.
I mean, they did come out swinging. It's just the next 75 minutes was a bit
right.
Right.
Well, they didn't get the job done against the Knights, and then it doesn't get any easier from here, and in fact, it probably even gets as hard as it gets. And in fact, this is probably as hard as it gets. Like, the Panthers are hurting from 2020, and they're going to be out to prove a point. They kept the Cowboys scoreless. I certainly foresee something fairly similar here, and the only way I don't see that happening, the only way that I see the Bulldogs standing a chance, is that Kyle Flanagan needs to do more of what he did to start the game in round 1. Like, when he put that first try in for Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, I was like, fuck, we could be on. And then I just didn't really see it again for the rest of the game. So I need to see more of that from him. But I also need to see more from Averillo and Allen, in that I don't think they did a lot of ball playing. I'm thinking back, I watched this game, I don't recall either of them really taking any load off Flanagan, so maybe that had a part to play. The other thing quickly mentioning here, it's not a news story yet, but it's just a bit of conjecture, is that this is the game between the Panthers and the Bulldogs regarding Matt Burton. So they don't want to let Matt Burton go from the Panthers to the Bulldogs. There's some chat that after this game, maybe it could happen. So if they can just get this fucking walloping that's probably coming out of the way, then maybe the Panthers are that much more okay with letting Matt Burton go over to the Bulldogs, right? Like, they do still have Tyrone May at the end of the day, so they're not going to be without a half if they let Matt Burton go, and he's just too good for second grade. But in summary, I unfortunately see a 26-point drubbing for the boys in blue. Panthers are going to take this one and take it easy.
26 points. I got the Panthers winning 54-0, and Charlie fucking Staines is getting a hat trick just to prove us wrong. But it's still not going to be enough by the end of the season. They're going to fucking whomp him, man. They're going to whomp him. And it's going to be a fucking fun game of footy to watch. I'm keen because I want to see the Panthers fucking with a bit of mongrel in them.
And then right after that game, we've got another cracker. We've got Manly Seagulls versus the Rabbits.
Seagulls.
The performance from Manly last week, frankly, it was pretty fucking poor, right? Like, I know there's no Tommy Turbo, and you keep saying this to me, and I'm the first one to agree with you because you can't deny the results, right? Like, when he wasn't playing in 2019 or 2020, like, they didn't really win, and then when he played, they went undefeated. Like that's undeniable.
They were 6 in 2019,
Right.
you know.
So, like, when he plays, he makes that much of a difference. However, their roster has weakened since that time. But other than Tommy Turbo, like, what's their excuse? Like, that's...
The Roosters are really, really good.
But at the same time...
Really, 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 really
46 fucking whatever it was, right? That's almost their strongest lineup, except for a few things. Like, I went and had a look at a couple of the Manly fan forums, and they are livid at some of Des Hasler's lineup selections. Like, they're giving... He's giving too many chances to a few players. I won't name them, but I would tend to agree. Particularly when...
Which players? What do you mean don't name them? Who are they? Let me know.
I call out enough players as it is. I don't need to make any more enemies.
But who are I want to know, though. Yeah, but...
Foreign's not good either.
Do we really think that Ruben Garrick getting taken out of that team is going to stop 46-4? And Kieran Foran played well.
I didn't think he
just didn't have any opportunities to play well. The team just got fucking pelted.
In the NRL, right, there is... Like, it's a game of inches. I don't want to use the stereotypes, but it's a game of inches. It's a game of, like, small increments are what makes the difference, right? So,
But not when you lose 46-4.
Yeah, but Kieran Foran, if he's just pretty good, but not the best, like, he's not in... What's the word? Like, he's not in demand anymore, right? Like, he came off contract at the Bulldogs and nobody was like, fucking give me Kieran Foran. Like, he had to go back to a place that was fucking desperate for him, right? So, not an in-demand half... Therefore, probably not top, let's say 20? Top 20 halves? Like, if you're not in the top 20, that's the difference between, like, being good enough to change the fortunes of a team and just not. And for me, he's just not. Like, he doesn't make enough of a difference, doesn't create the game-breaking plays, doesn't offer enough as an attacking player as well as a ball
So then
player.
which 5/8 could you put in that Manly team that would have won them that game against the Roosters?
I'm not saying to win the game. My point was that they are angry at him that they're not even playing their best team, or at least like to start building for the future. And I would agree because
but also I will say, like, one-eyed fucking fans on Facebook, I'm calling out a lot of people right now, think like you can't it's not fucking FIFA or fucking like some video game where you just put in the youngest guy with the highest potential and he just goes, well, like, you don't want to put your young number 6 up against the Roosters and get them smashed 50-0. That's going to fucking hurt his confidence. Kieran Foran is a guy that's been there before. He's steady, he's strong. He's going to be there to help build up the younger guys. Like, it's not like Dessy Hasler is like deliberately putting this team. It's just the fact that like a lot of like the step up from Intrust Super Cup or knock-on effect New South Wales Cup to NRL is just so fucking high. And while like they did do well on the weekend, and I think with, you know, what was it, Suwali and Walker and there was somebody else that normally plays for the Roosters,
Verrills or one of the Butcher or someone like that.
They gave him a fucking toweling, but there's just like that's like that even if itself right there, right? Suwali and Walker are seen to be like so fucking good and such great prospects. They can't crack NRL yet, and they're still getting beat in the Unders Cup. Like it takes time to build and develop. Like Cody Walker was 28 or 27 until he got his crack at the NRL. So like, well, obviously Kieran Foran isn't going to be the guy to like change the Manly Seagulls season. I just think this is so typical of like, you know, crazy fans that just don't want to stick to the process of like, Manly were literally one of the most successful clubs in the late noughties and the early like 2010s, right? And like now that they've had a couple of years of not playing so well, which is literally like you've made the finals in 2019, you didn't have Tommy T last year, and this year you've like any Manly fan that thought they were going to be within 20 points of the Roosters is smoking the ganja or the fucking chuff, all right? Like just chill out, like give it a couple of weeks. Like they could play well against the Rabbits this week, and they like Foran could have a good game. And they'll be like, oh nah, I always supported Foran. Like nah, ever since we got rid of him, I was disappointed we got rid of him. Like these fans are just fucking idiots.
Oh look, I agree with you, but I'm certainly not a biased onlooker of the Manly team. And so when I read this stuff, I assessed it from my own point of view, and I was like, I agree with you. I agree with them in at least two players, and these are neither like juniors that like aren't ready yet. These are both guys that actually have played in the NRL and probably like did pretty well. So that's Cade Cust and Josh Schuster are two such names. Like at least get Schuster in the team somewhere. Cade Cuss has certainly got to be better than the 1 run and 5 metres that Lachlan Croker offered up. I do think Lachlan Croker's not a bad player, just not playing in the right position. And that's why I think the Eagles are getting really, really desperate now. And they've brought in Carl Lawton, who's not even going to be available to play up until like July. But they were just like, fuck, we need a hooker. So they got a guy on a 2-year deal that's like injured. So hopefully they bring Cuss up. I think Schuster needs to get into the team somewhere. But yeah, it's really not going to make much of a difference at the end of the day. Like, this is going to be a little bit of a rebuild for the Manly Sea Eagles, probably over a couple of years. And yeah, this round is not going to do them many favours, and that's why I have the Rabbits by 46.
Look, the Rabbits will win. They'll make it difficult because the Rabbitohs last week showed that there's still a couple of creases that need to be ironed out. I'll have the Rabbits by about 20, maybe like 30-10, I think. Like, the Seagulls aren't as bad as I think people are letting on. And at the end of the day, like, I still trust a team that's coached by Des Hasler and has guys like Marty Tapau, Daly Cherry Evans, and Kieran Foran in their lineup. Like, yeah, they're not... Like, this team that's playing right now isn't going to make the 8. But I genuinely think that Tommy T makes that big of a difference. And, like, the Roosters into the Rabbitohs, into the Dragons, into the Panthers. Like, even with Tommy T, that was going to be a tough stretch to fucking navigate through. Like, they're probably going to get out of this 4-week stretch with 1 win, that being via the Dragons. But this is really just about building those combinations, getting used to the speed of the game. And, like, you can't fault a team for getting belted 46-4 against the Roosters. Like, the Rabbitohs will do them a solid, but I'll see there'll be more fight. And, like, again, Cherry Evans has to be better, just has to be a little bit smarter and hold on to I don't even know how he did it. Just hold on to the fucking ball near the line. And on second tackle in a game like that, when there's, like, you know, and there wasn't this, like, maybe if it's like the half is ending, like, go for that play, but like, just like you played really well in Origin. Like, you're a really good player. Just take the right option. Like, you know, Manly will be better for it if you just stop trying to win the game by yourself and just try to put your team in a position to make the right plays.
Probably just feels like he needs to do everything. But I just, like, if I look at the Roosters, who are pretty good, but and we both agreed, I think, that they weren't going to be as good as the Rabbits, right? So you're saying that even though the Roosters smashed them by 40-something, that the Rabbits aren't going to be able to do so? Like, I think the Rabbits are going to look at that and go, like, we'll do better.
Yeah, but I think the Rabbits are still they're still figuring it out. Like, they were slow starters last year, and I still think they're going to win in a convincing sort of fashion. But you look at when the Roosters, like, particularly, like, obviously last year, like, and we saw it from round 1, when they get on a roll, their star power is just like, their 1-5 backline is fucking way better than the Rabbitohs 1-5. Like, even the most hardened Rabbitohs fans can't say that they would rather, Latrell, Mansour, Graham, Gay Guy, and AJ versus Tedesco, Daniel Tupou, Joseph Manu, and the Morris twins. Like, I'd rather take the Roosters 5 over those 5 players. So when they are playing well, they're going to put up big scorelines. The Rabbitohs aren't, like, they're not going to be a team, especially early on in the season, that's going to be able to, like, put all those points on the board. Like, they're still going to look good against Manly, but they're still going to have to figure a few things out. Like, Manly will test them a lot more defensively, and I think the Roosters would have been tested. And you also got to think as well, is like, yeah, like, the Rabbits want to be looking at the Roosters going like, oh, we got to prove a point here. But Manly have also got to come back and go, fucking hell, we just got beat by 42 points. We need to dig in here. Like, we need to show teams that we're just not going to fucking lie over. And they're still going to lose, but it's just going to be, like, 30-10, 30-12.
Man, I guess I can only go off what I saw on the weekend. And, you know, if you wanted to do, like, an impromptu power rankings here, I got Manly number 16. Like, even you looked at their run of games coming up, and you said they'll get that win over the Dragons. I don't think so.
Friday night too. Oi, oi, oi.
And I don't rate the Dragons, man. So I think the Sea Eagles are firming for a spoon if they don't sort some shit out.
Tommy T will come back and all will be forgiven. Speaking of Dragons, our last game in Saturday night footy, we have the Cowboys versus those sultry Dragons. Look, the big question for me coming out of this is, can North Queensland score a point? Do North Queensland go for the field goal or the penalty goal early just to get that monkey off their back? Alex, to you.
That's probably the only points they'll score. They've got so many problems, man.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey, it's like, this is just something. And again, like, not to say anything against, like, the Cowboys or the Dragons, but, like, well, I don't. I want to see how many viewers flick Fox Sport off after the Manly Rabbits game going into the Cowboys Dragons, because this is just going to be like, it's probably still going to be good footy. Like, I'll still watch it because like it's footy, but it's a game that like really doesn't I'm not aroused. I'm not getting tingly about this. Like, I think Taumolo will look a lot better against the Dragons forward pack than he does the Panthers forward pack, and I think Todd Payten might be seen in a bit more favourable light for, pacing Taumolo and making sure that he gets the right minutes and like is put into the right stints that he needs. Yeah, like, look, I got the Cowboys winning this one. I think they showed enough against the Panthers that leads me to believe that they'll bounce back. Todd Payten showed that he was very good with the Warriors last year and getting good results from adversity out of them. And like, it's with the Dragons, there's just like, I don't know, like there's just not a lot of oomph in them, I guess. Like against the Sharkies, they had a couple of decent plays here and there. Like mainly that Matt Duffy try, but I don't see how their forward pack works up against the Cowboys. Josh Maguire will be playing much better. Is it Molo was their starting number 8 last week? He looked good. He was just getting fucking belted by the Panthers every third play. McLean looked solid, and look, like, you got a guy like Valentine Holmes, you're paying him that sort of money, like, sooner or later, he's going to have to start producing for you. And Scott Drinkwater, although options were very limited, didn't look terrible or completely out of place in that number 1 jersey. And I think we'll be talking a lot more about how good the Panthers are after this game than we are about either of the Cowboys or the Dragons, I think. Because I think the Cowboys were a little bit hard done by in week 1 going up against the buzzsaw that is Penrith. And although the Dragons scored a few points, I think the Cowboys will make them look silly.
See, the thing is, I think that there's a couple of small things that need to be changed in the Cowboys to actually see them starting to make some inroads toward success. And primarily, it's just playing players in the wrong position. I want to go on record that once they put the following players in the following positions, they will do better. I'm not saying they're going to make the finals. I think they'll win more games. So, Drinkwater should be 6, not 1. Right? Tabuai-Fidow should be fullback, and if not fullback, wing. He's got the blistering pace, and he even showed on the weekend with Charlie Staines how many times he could cover someone with the prowess that Charlie Staines apparently has. So I think he's a winger or a fullback, which therefore means, I guess, Valentine Holmes stays on the wing or goes to fullback if Tabuai-Fidow goes to the wing. Therefore, you move Morgan to 7 to make way for Drinkwater, and then you drop Clifford and just drop Hess while you're at it. There's a couple of changes right there that I think puts the right pieces in the right places and sorts out a couple of their problems. Last year, they made the problem of changing it around too much. I think it still needs to change around again, but then settle. But at the end of the day, Payten was right to question Taumolo for his involvement, because while a lot of people called out Payten for the Taumolo experiment, I mean, you got to expect more from Taumolo. Like, he still played 50-plus minutes and only had 7 runs for 55 meters. Like, that's in your own power to go get that fucking ball and do something with it. So, like, that's on Taumolo. But in another way, Payten, out of all the things that need to be improved in this team and fixed in this team and changed in this team, Taumolo probably wasn't one of them. Or at the very least, while you're changing a lot of variables, like, you want to keep something static, and why change something that ain't broke? If Taumolo is good for 200 plus meters a game with his current minutes, and he seems to be doing just fine, like, play him. He just has this thing in his head where he's like, oh, if I play him like 60 to 70 minutes every game, he's going to burn out in 5 years. I'm like, can you really give me a scientific example where that has happened? Like, I think players have more like longevity than what he's saying. Like, you know what I mean? He's literally saying,
like, all sports science. Like, if you've got a guy that's going to be playing 80 minutes a game versus 40, like, there's no evidence to suggest that, like, the chance of freak accident or freak injury doesn't occur at any lower rate. But it's just like they've got Taumolo signed until 2027 at $1 million a year. They got 6 more years. So they got $6 million of their salary cap locked up over 6 years on Jason Taumolo. And my thing is, like you said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But that's a fucking issue with the Cowboys. Everything else around them is broke. Like, you talk, like, you know, you say Morgan or Morgan to 7, like Scott Drinkwater to 6, but they already know they don't have a 7. That's why they're trying to get Tom Dearden, because Michael Morgan's tried to play 7 before and he can't fucking do it. And that's why the system is the way it is now, because like Clifford isn't a good halfback. He's not a great halfback, but he's the best halfback the Cowboys have, if that makes sense, because Michael Morgan just can't control the game. And that's where everything from that 7 position, like you were saying, sort of falls around that, because it's then like, if you don't have that number 7 piece, right, then you've got to start grabbing it from all other areas. Because like the Hammer shouldn't be playing center. Scott Drinkwater probably shouldn't be playing fullback. You shouldn't be paying Holmes the type of money he's on to be playing on the wing. Like, it's just a fucking schmozzle. And the thing is that fucking shits me off so much. It's like the team they have now, if they just had one man by the last name of Thurston in that team, they'd be a premiership contender. They would. You know what I mean? That team they built now, but I still think that like in their heads, they still think that like a Jonathan Thurston's just gonna like rock up on the street. Like they're they're throwing everything around, seeing what works. So right now, like, yeah, they just need to like just strip it all back. And like, if I'm Todd Payten, like I'm saying to them, like, hey, like I didn't sign any of these contracts. Like, can we cut Val Holmes? Like, does he want to go back to Cronulla? Like, surely he does want to play for play in Townsville, right? Who wants to fucking live in Townsville?
I don't know if anybody would take him. He just wants too much money.
The Hammer in center makes sense defensively because he's got great pace and he looked pretty good in that trial game. But again, it is that thing where like we've always sort of talked about with centers, where like a center is really just a winger who's not fast enough or a second rower who can't tackle. Hammer's, last time I checked, he's pretty fast. Like, Scott Drinkwater had a really nifty play where he got out of the in goal, like he stepped a guy off the right foot and got out. But like, again, he's not pushing the needle. Like, why don't the Cowboys try Michael Morgan in center? He's played pretty well there in Origin.
That's what they said they were going to do, and it just didn't happen. I don't know. So that's it. I think they've got a bit of a...
You're talking me out of my tip now.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a ring around the rosy that's going on there that needs to be just settled, but... Yeah, they've still got Hess in the team, and he was good for more than 5 errors, I think. I watched that game, and he just gets up angry and like I can't understand what's happened. It's just like, hold the ball, just hold the ball.
He did cop a few like unfair hospital passes from Jack Clifford, I will say, but this isn't a new occurrence of Cohen Hess shit in the bed.
Yeah, whereas like the Dragons were the losing side on Sunday, but they definitely put up a fight. A few things that I'd like to see better from them in order to go on to win this game is that Ben Hunt and Clune need to improve massively to be any chance. Hunt had a couple of like real bad moments in that game in first round, namely in the 3rd minute where all he had to do was kick the ball dead and he somehow managed to like stand on it and just present a try on a platter for Josh Dugan. Like, that's not an easy thing to do because Josh Dugan... I thought he would have fell down with a cramp on the way there.
Got feet for hands, yeah.
So, like, just not good enough. To still, I honestly think that grand final is going to haunt him till the end of his playing days. Poor fella. In saying that, bring in Sullivan. I don't need to see either of these guys improve. I need one of them to drop out so Sullivan can play, go on to win NRL Rookie of the Year, as he's destined to do because he's the best half they have and he's playing second grade. Don't understand it. But ultimately, I'm going to back the Dragons here as the Cowboys look like they've got a lot of shit to work out. So, Dragons by 8.
Ooh. I have the Cowboys by 7. Yeah.
Clifford's good for 1 field goal a year. Maybe it'd be this week.
Three 40-metre field goals and 1 field goal will be the difference in that order.
And then we wrap it up with 2 games, Sunday afternoon footy. How good. We got the Tigers versus the Roosters. As we already said, the Tigers were actually better than either of us thought. We ripped into them, honestly, in the preseason, and now I guess we've had to change our tune. But what what chance do they really stand against the Roosters? Like, they're coming off a 46 fucking whatever drubbing of the Manly Sea Eagles. And for the Tigers to possibly have any chance of overcoming that, they're going to need to go up about 5 gears. And that's just too much to do in 1 week. It's going to be a process for the Tigers. I'm surprised by what I saw. Give more ball to Leilua. Leilua, just go more vertical, hit the line at speed, sort out their halves, and they might go better. But I think it's just going to be a bit of a training run for the Roosters, if I'm completely honest.
I see, like, in the first half, I see the Tigers being able to maybe get the ascendancy a little bit. Like, you got to think, Jake Friend's not going to be there. That's a big chunk of tackles out of the middle. In terms of starting props, like James Taumolo and Joe Offengawi, especially after this week, showed that they aren't that bad. Like, you got Alex Toll as well in there. Like, that first 40 minutes, like, if I'm a Tigers fan, if I'm the Tigers, like, if we can stay within 8 to 12 points of the Roosters at that first half, I take that as a win. And then if you can hold it close and together in that second half, I take that as another win. Like, I think it's a pretty horrid run for the Tigers, fucking straight off the bat, to be honest with you. Having to verse the Raiders and then the Roosters back to back. But man, like, if they, like, after what they did to Manly, if the Tigers can come out and keep it to within maybe 18 to 20 points, I think it's got to be a win for them, because the Roosters have shown, like, that they don't really have a first or second gear. Like, they've just got 6th gear. And they're going to come out against the Tigers and try to do another Manly. But if the Tigers can look at the tape from Manly and see where Manly went wrong in some key moments early in that first half, like, you can get after the Roosters until they start to warm into the contest. So I'd like to see the Tigers take advantage of that. But it's going to take the Offengawi and Tamau really taking it to Takayaho and Lindsay Collins early on. But look, like, it's probably just wishful thinking. Like, I don't like to, like, obviously, I don't want to predict that the Tigers are going to get belted, because I feel like we've pissed off a few Tigers fans doing it. So I'll say optimistically, the Tigers will lose 32-10. There you go. That's fair, right? That's not a drubbing.
He's being nice, Tigers fans. Come on. Yeah, it's not going to be a good day for the Tigers. I honestly can't put a scoreline on this one. Yeah, I'll say a 30-point win to the Roosters. One topic for discussion before we wrap on that, though, is a big what if. Will Suwali play? He's been cleared by the NRL to make his debut before he's 18. This is something that they were supposed to have changed a few years back now, and they've made an exemption. Of course they fucking have for the Roosters. But is there a spot for him in the 21, let alone the 17? Or is this a game where they could potentially just give it a go? Why not?
See, I would... If this game was later on in the season, I can understand maybe putting him in there. But I don't know, man. Like, it's a tough one, because it doesn't seem like it'd be Robinson's thing, to bring in this live wire, like, 17-year-old straight into the starting side, particularly when nobody in that back five, like, not even any of them played poorly. They all played fucking either outstanding or very good. So who are you going to drop him for? Tupou? No. Manu? No. Morris's? No. So not getting dropped out for Tedesco. Like, I think this is just the Roosters, covering their bases, making sure they've got this all sorted. And, like, I think that he's going to be primed to come in for Origin. So when the Origin series kicks in and the Roosters lose a few guys to New South Wales, I think that's the perfect time to bring him in. He's great injury cover. But I think, like, and I think as well, like, it would be, I think it'd probably give the Tigers a bit more to play for if they're like, oh, hey guys, like, we're only versing the Tigers this week, so we're going to play Suwali this week. You're going to put a target on the poor kid's back. Just bring him along slowly. Like, they lost by, I think, like 28 points against the Manly theatre side. He did score 2 tries, but the Roosters don't need him right now to come in and, like, blow the socks off. So let's protect his career a little bit and just bring him up slowly but surely. And then, but if injuries hit, then that gives you a perfect reason. But you don't want to rock the cradle and potentially piss off any, like, Manu, Tupou, Brett, or Josh.
Yeah, they're not going to, because this part of the season, even though they don't really need to, it's about establishing connections and getting a bit of a roll on, getting some momentum. So why would you change something that certainly wasn't broken in round 1 just to give a guy a game in first grade? You're probably right. It'll be, should injuries come along, or injury origin time. So yeah, we won't see him this week, but they've just got the Dies. They've dotted their I's and crossed their T's, ready for the future.
Probably even a good thing just to get it out of the way early in the season, so he's just not talking about it.
And then we have the final game of the round, the 6 p.m. or late Sunday game. I don't know if you've noticed the trend looking at all these games, by the way, but pretty much every team is playing on the same day they played on round one. So they tried to give everyone a nice 7-day turnaround.
Yeah, I think just the Eels got dicked down. They got a 6-day turnaround from Friday to Thursday.
And maybe the Dragons moved up a day as well.
Yeah, Dragons moved up to Saturday. But you'd rather have those, obviously they work it to even it out. I'd probably have those early turnarounds early in the season than later, right?
So, to finish off the round, we got the Sharks and the Raiders. They both were round one victors. So, I guess that's going for them. But at the same time, I still feel they were on completely different levels. Even though the opponents they beat were probably of equivalent. The Sharks showed some good stuff, but for the most part, it was pretty tight with the Dragons until the end of the game, whereas the Raiders really started to show, their class and that they are a top 8 and potential top 4 team toward the end of the game. They got some origin calibre and international calibre in the forwards. There's not really many of those in the Sharks, and that's, I think, the difference between these two teams, where do the Sharks have a current origin or international player? Like maybe for a couple of tier 2 nations, but I don't think any of them play anymore. Like Aaron Woods used to, but Rudolph hasn't yet. Wade Graham isn't currently. Nakora is in New Zealand. Actually, he might have got dropped last year because he definitely had a regression 2020 versus 2019. So I think the difference is in the forwards between the Raiders and the Sharks. And then even the backs, I think, are going to go to the next level for the Raiders this week. Like, there was a few new connections and reintegrations to the NRL in the back line of the Raiders last week in Seb Chris, Bailey Simonson, Curtis Scott, getting past all of the off-field dramas that he made a cool 100K out of at the end of things, and then Jordan Rapana returning to the wing, where... Mate, you couldn't take the smile off his face. Like, that's just where he's supposed to be. When he was playing in the centres, I think he was fucking shitting bricks, and it certainly showed with some of his so-so performances. So he's back on his preferred wing, looking good. Where on the park can the Sharks beat the Raiders?
The only thing that separates the Sharks and the Raiders is focus. I think the Sharkies scare the Raiders this week because the thing that the Sharks love doing is being told that they can't beat somebody, and they're just nuggety as fuck. That's why you don't like them. They're scratching their claw at you, which is odd because they have fins, but that's neither here nor there. This is another one of those games that's going to be like in the past few years, the Raiders would fucking botch and lose by 20. This is a game that they'll get past, but it'll be one of those games where the Sharkies are the teams that the Raiders always kind of struggle with just a little bit early on, because if it was one of the big teams, they'd fucking play right up to them. But last year, the Raiders started off really well, 3 wins to start off the season. They got the Warriors, the Storm, and I think the Titans in that 3-game stretch. And they came up against the Knights, and the Knights beaches just.
Oh, they put a good score on us, actually. It was 3 tries or something. That was our worst loss of the season until the Storm.
So I think there's going to be like sort of sprinkles of that. Well, like you were saying, I don't think the Sharks, talent-wise, match up to the Raiders as well. Obviously, I think what really changed the game for the Raiders was that like the second half start and the depth in the forwards. Obviously, you don't think Ryan James is going to score a try every week, but it's going to give him a lot of confidence. He's going to be looking pretty good. I was impressed with what I saw so far. And yeah, look, I think the Sharks, they always fight, they always scratch, they always claw, they're always in the contest. So while I don't think the Raiders are going to run away with it, I think they'll still win it. And I'll say that the Raiders will get up 28-16.
Okay.
With a late Sharkies try to make it look closer than what it is. The Sharkies will test you in the first 20 minutes, because if the Tigers gave you a bit of a scare in that first 20, the Sharkies will fucking, like, in that first 20, they'll be, and they were good in that first half. So I think, and like, that's the thing with the Raiders. Like, you're going to get up against the Raiders, you're going to try to get in the face of Josh Papali, Joe Tarpany, fucking, and the such. Like, you better bring that fang with you. And I just don't think they're going to have that fang for 80 minutes.
This is the other thing that I forgot in doing the round 1 review. I was saying that the Raiders hadn't fixed a few things that I thought were always their glaring problems and why they haven't been able to ascend and become a premiership winner yet. And the other one of that is that they're slow starters. All last year, they'd start fucking so slow and they'd let the Draggers or let the Broncos or let the whoever's get above them and go into the halftime break most often leading and then have to fucking peg them back and do it quite well. But like, I just don't want to see that from them anymore. I want to see them play 80 minutes of footy, and if they can and do it consistently, then 100% back them all the way for a premiership.
Or even the Storm tactic of just get out to a lead early and just fucking protect it.
It's always been something that's frustrated me about the Raiders, even through these last 2 years where they've been much, much better, is that they don't start the game well, they finish the game well, and it's like your top tier rugby league players, like surely something can be done, if not over 1 week, then over continuing weeks of training and focus of get it together from minute one. Go in with the mindset that you need to get out of the blocks fast. They've got the talent to do it, and they somehow continue to not be able to do it. So I'm hoping and praying that Sticky's fucking gave them a licking after yesterday's start, and this week they get it together, and it starts a roll of fast starts. If I don't see that this week, I still think they go on to beat the Sharks, but I'm that much less confident in their ability because so far I haven't seen the improvements on their weaknesses. Premiership contenders take what was good from the last season, keep it. That's the easy part. It's taking what was shit and making it no longer a weakness. Storm do it, Roosters do it, Raiders haven't done it, and I didn't see them do it in round one. In saying that, I just don't think they're the same caliber of team. So I've got the Raiders winning this one 36-16. 20 points.
Pretty close. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
And that's a wrap on our round 2 previews. We've obviously put this together before the team lists have come out to make sure we can get this content to you as fast as we possibly can. So there could be a few changes that we'll, of course, address in our round 2 reviews. But for now, enjoy. It's the second round of footy. This is where it starts to get even more exciting. It's, combinations are coming together. Teams are starting to figure out where they're at. I think there's going to be some fucking top tier rugby league on show this round. See you next week, guys.